Rashad, why you
Anyway,
didn't hit me up?
What's up, Rashad? Hey, Rashad.
What's up, Rashad?
Thank you, Rashad.
brother, I love you, brother. Trump,
What's up, Rashad? What it do, boy?
Hey, Rashad.
New York judge charges out terrorism charges against Luigi Mangione, and he has an unaliving count. It still stands. It's from the AP. Michael R. Shizak and Dave Collins, a New York judge on Tuesday. There was a bunch of women, by the way, that was like, "We here for Luigi," and they was baddies too. I was like, "Dang, that's crazy, bro." New York judge on Tuesday threw out the terrorism charges against Luigi Mangione, rejecting the Manhattan District Attorney's theory and state unaliving case of the unaliving of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was "quote unquote" intended to evoke terror. Judge Gregory Caro kept the other charges in place, including a second-degree unaliving count that requires prosecutors to prove Mangione intended to unalive Thompson, but not that he was doing it as some sort of act of terrorism. The ruling eliminated the top two charges in Mangione's state case, sparing him of the possibility of a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. The 27-year-old Ivy League graduate is also facing a parallel federal death penalty prosecution. Carroll says the defense argument was that the dueling prosecutors accounted to double jeopardy was premature. Mangione, a cause celebre for people upset with the healthcare insurance industry, appeared to be in good spirits and raised his eyebrows at supporters as police officers let him out of the brief hearing after Kiro issued his ruling. In a written decision, the judge said that although there isn't a doubt that Thompson's unaliving last December was no ordinary street crime, excuse me, state law in New York doesn't consider something terrorism simply because it was motivated by ideology. While the defendant was clearly expressing an animus toward UHC, the healthcare industry generally, it does not follow that his goal was to intimidate or coerce civilian population, and indeed there was no evidence presented of such a goal, Curro wrote. The judge also said that there was insufficient evidence that Mangione intended to influence or affect any government policy by intimidation or corrosion. Another element of terrorism charges, he noted that the federal prosecutors hadn't charged Mangione with terrorism offenses, even though the federal terrorism statute was a model of the state law. But in keeping the second-degree unaliving charge, Carroll ruled that there was a sufficient evidence that Mangione, quote unquote, unalived Brian Thompson in premeditated and calculated execution. That charge faces a potential penalty of 15 years to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Afterward, Mangione's lawyer, Mark Angofilo, told TMZ it's a big win in the first of many. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office issued a brief statement saying, quote unquote, "We respect the court's decision and will proceed on the remaining 9 counts." Gosh, he's done. Carroll scheduled pretrial hearings in the state for December 1st, just days before Mangione's next date in court due in his federal case. And here it is. Free Luigi. Dang, this is crazy. Look at this, bro. He got like models. That's crazy. Mangione is handcuffed and shackled for a cuff appearance. Mangione, who had been locked up since his arrest, arrived in court in beige jail garb, handcuffs, and ankle shackles, making his first appearance in Carroll's courtroom since February. He was mostly silent, quietly conferring with his lawyers as the judge outlined his decision. Echoing the scene is his last hearing was dozens of supporters, mostly women, packed 3 rows in the rear courtroom gallery. Some were dressed in green. Hold on, let me see. Some were dressed in green, the color worn by the Mario Bros. Video game character Luigi. One woman sported a Free Luigi t-shirt. Across the street from the courthouse, cheers erupted as a pro Luigi rally as news spread that the judge dismissed the terrorism charges. Luigi pleaded not guilty late last year to multiple counts of unaliving, including unaliving as an act of terrorism. Surveillance video showed that the masked gunman hit Thompson from behind on December 4th, 2024, as the executive arrived to the Midtown Manhattan Hotel for his company's annual investor conference. Police say the words delay, deny, dispose were scrawled into the ammunition, mimicking a phrase commonly used to describe how insurers avoid paying claims. Luigi was arrested 5 days later in Altova, Pennsylvania, about 230 miles west of New York City. Judge rejects the double jeopardy argument. Luigi's lawyers have argued that the simultaneous state and federal prosecutions violate double jeopardy protections meant to prevent people from being tried multiple times for the same crime. But Carroll rejected the argument, saying that it would be premature to make a determination because neither case has gone to trial. Bragg's office contended that there are no double jeopardy issues, in part because the state and federal prosecutions involve different legal theories. The federal charges allege that Luigi stalked Thompson and do not involve terrorism allegations. Luigi's lawyers said the two cases have created a quote-unquote legal quagmire that makes it quote-unquote legally and logistically impossible to defend against them simultaneously. Diary writings have been the basis for the terrorism charges. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi in April said that she was directing federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty against Luigi as a quote-unquote act of political violence and a quote-unquote premeditated cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. Bragg's office quoted extensively from Luigi's handwritten diary as they sought to uphold the terrorism charges in the June court filing. They highlighted his desire to unalive an insurance honcho and his praise to the late Theodore Kaczynski, the convicted unaliving known as Unabomber. In the writings, the prosecutor said Luigi mused about rebelling against the quote-unquote fatal greed-fueled health insurance cartel and said that unaliving an industry executive conveys a greedy bastard that had it coming. Yikes. They also cited a confession that he said he pinned to the feds, to which he wrote, "It had to be done." Luigi's intentions were obvious from his facts, but the writings served to make the intentions explicit. Prosecutors said the writings, which they sometimes describe as a manifesto, quote unquote, convey one clear message: that the unaliving of Brian Thompson was intended to bring about a revolutionary change to the healthcare industry. Carroll noted that the ruling of terrorism has been famously difficult to define. He knocked prosecutors for emphasizing Luigi's use of the phrase revolutionary anarchism in their attempt to bolster of their claims that he intended to influence government by intimidation or coercion. Not only does this stretch the import of the two-word phrase beyond what it carries, but ignores other more explicit absurds of the defendant's writings, in which he states that his goal is to spread a message, quote unquote, or quote unquote, win public support about quote unquote everything that is wrong within our health system, the judge wrote. Collins reported from Hartford, Connecticut. All right, next up.
Rashad, why you
Anyway.
didn't hit me up?
What's up, Rashad? Hey, Rashad.
What's up, Rashad?
Thank you, Rashad.
Brother, I love you, brother.
Trump lead.
What's up, Rashad?
Yeah.
What it do, boy?
Hey, Rashad.